In this video, we are going to look at all of the things that you can do with some of the advanced features in Nearpod alongside the Google Suite, Google Docs, Slides, Draw, etc., and a few other sites. When we put all of these advanced options together, you can do almost anything that you can do in an in-person classroom. So we're going to start with how to embed web content, which will open up lots of opportunities, and then we'll look at lots of different ways that you might embed web content to improve your lessons. So we'll start with embedding web content. We're going to look at Google Docs, Slides, Draw, Sheets, and also other links. So the first thing that you're going to do is make a separate Google slide or Draw or Doc. So I'm going to make a slide. I'm going to put in something I already made previously, which is a slide with manipulatives on it. And then when you have a slide made, we're going to go to our sharing permissions. Name it first. Go to our sharing permissions, and you have two options here when we're embedding web content. I want it to be anyone with a link, and then I can make it a viewer if I'm going to model something on that slide, but I don't need students to be able to interact with it or manipulate it. Or I can make it an editor. If I make it anyone with the link can edit, then when we're in the Nearpod, when it's embedded, kids will be able to move things around right on the slide or the doc or the draw. If we make it a view, then only I will be able to. So for this one, I'm going to make it a view. Sometimes I'll show you some examples where you want it to be edit. Copy the link, and then go back into your original slide deck that you're building. And you're going to open your add-on for Nearpod. And you are going to choose web content. And insert that link. Now that slide is a part of your Nearpod, but it will be embedded as a Google slide, so you'll be able to edit it in real time during the lesson, and you'll see a bunch of reasons why we do that. A few other things that we want to look at is how we would embed a link instead. So we can embed a link in a couple different ways. So let's say that I want to embed a Google Classroom assignment, for example. So here's an assignment. I can capture the link, copy link for this assignment. Now that link will take them directly to the assignment. I can, in my slides, make a new slide and a text box and put that link in. Now, when I make this into a Nearpod, this will be a link that they can click and they'll go straight to that assignment. If you want to get a little bit fancier, you can put a button in. So I'm going to screenshot a picture of the Google Classroom icon. And then instead of just a link, I'm going to put in that picture. And I'm going to put the link in that way. And that way, when they click on that icon, it will take them directly to that Google Classroom assignment, and they'll be able to do their own assignment. So you can add a link that way. The other way that you can add a link, if you do that, when kids click on that link, they will open a new tab for Google Classroom, and they'll be working in a different tab for Google Classroom. If you do it this way, by going to web content, adding web content slide, and putting in the link that you want it to take them to, then instead of it opening a new tab for them, it will open a pop-up with the Google Classroom, a pop-up window just like this pop-up window. And when you move on to the next slide in your Nearpod, the Google Classroom will go away. So this would be if you want them to do a little bit of work in there, but you want to be able to then move forward in the lesson and not have them get confused with an extra tab. Then you could add it as web content. So two different ways that you can put a link in. You can put it directly onto the slide before you convert it to a Nearpod, or you can put the link in as web content itself. And then when they get to this slide, it will automatically pop up to Google Classroom, and it won't ask them to sign in because they'll already be signed in. It will automatically pop up their Google Classroom, and they'll be able to work in Google Classroom. And when you move forward, that window will go away. When you move forward in the Nearpod, that window will go away. One more example of where you might do that. This is a whiteboard application. So I can start a new whiteboard. And I can take the whiteboard link here, and I can embed this as web content. Same thing, click on web content, put the link in. And then when we get to this slide in the Nearpod, their whiteboard will pop up, my whiteboard will pop up. I'll be able to model on my whiteboard and push out whatever I'm writing on my whiteboard to their whiteboards. I'll be able to see what they're writing on their whiteboards. So it's sort of like using the Draw It in Nearpod, except that you can actually push things out to their whiteboard as you're doing them. So that's if you want to put a whiteboard in as web content. So you can really put in anything as web content. We'll look at another example here. Self-paced Nearpod within the teacher-paced Nearpod. So in this case, if I want to get to a slide in my Nearpod and then let kids work at their own pace for a while and then keep moving with them all together, I would want to put in a self-paced in here. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to create a whole new document on a new slide. So we'll go over here, we'll create new slides. I'm going to make this independent practice. And I'll create my slide. So I have a couple independent practice problems from my lesson. I screenshotted them so I can just paste them in here. This is one of them. Next slide. Here's the other one. Let's say we did a whole slide deck of independent practice problems. And then I'm going to use my Nearpod add-on and make these into Draw It's. This one and Draw It. Make this one and Draw It. I'm going to get rid of these extra slides. Now they're duplicates. And then I'm going to save this and go to Nearpod. So remember, this is a separate Nearpod that I'm making. It's going to save. And then I'm going to take this Nearpod that I just made. I'm going to launch it as student paste. Take the link, copy that link, and then put that link back into my original Nearpod that I'm building. This is my whole lesson that I'm building here. I'm going to put that link in as web content. And now you will see when students get to that place that they'll be able to go down their own path on this separate student-paced Nearpod until I move forward in the main Nearpod, and then they'll move forward with me. So that is how we can embed web content and how we can embed a self-paced Nearpod into a larger Nearpod. The rest of what we're going to look at is how we can, some ways that now that we know this function, that we can use it in different pieces of our lesson. So first we're going to look at advanced options for modeling, and we're going to do that in this Nearpod that I've already created.